Today, we're gonna talk about how TRT impacts sperm count. But before we get into it, this is not medical advice. This should not be used to treat or diagnose medical conditions. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So we're gonna get into how it impacted mine. But before we get into that, it's important for you to understand exactly how TRT works to potentially, in most men, but not all, so don't think this is birth control, can lower sperm count. So I made this chart, pretty simple to follow. When you take a testosterone injection, the goal of TRT is to bring your testosterone higher than it was before you started TRT. That's kind of the point. So what's gonna happen is you take the TRT injection, that's gonna increase the blood level of testosterone and estradiol. The hypothalamus will detect the high levels of testosterone and estradiol, and it downregulates what's called GnRH. That stands for Gonadotropin Releasing Hormone. GnRH is produced by the hypothalamus, and then it hits the pituitary. It's non-selective, meaning that it's not gonna increase one or the other unless there's an issue with your pituitary. So it's gonna increase LH, which stands for Lutenizing Hormone, and FSH, which stands for follicle stimulating hormone. So LH is what's responsible for testosterone production in the testicles. FSH hits the Sertoli cells, and it's responsible for spermatogenesis, or sperm production. So when you have a decrease in GnRH because your testosterone is high, you have a decrease in LH and FSH, again because there's a decrease in GnRH, you're gonna have testicular atrophy, and you're gonna have a reduction in sperm count. For some men, it'll render them completely infertile. Now, just as an aside, for natural guys that are not on TRT, how it should work is you have this diurnal testosterone pattern. So you'll have a boost in the morning, it goes down in the evening, your hypothalamus will detect low testosterone, and then it ramps up GnRH, and it's kind of like this. But when you're manually stepping in with the exogenous testosterone, your testosterone's high, so your natural production starts to go down for most men. Again, some guys, I have a couple friends of mine that were pretty hard abusing anabolics throughout their 20s, and they have 2 kids, and it's definitely theirs from DNA tests, so they're still wondering, hey, why didn't it work for me? So just because, we're gonna go into my results, this did that for me does not necessarily mean that TRT is birth control, so always remember that. Looking at my results here, and I know that I'm fertile, or at least was fertile, because I have a kid that looks exactly like me. And so yeah, things were working before I started TRT, and we can see what happened a year into TRT. So calculated total modal count, 0, nothing's going on in there. Volume is fine, no concentration, no percentage of motility, no change in morphology, and the count is literally 0. There is nothing going on in there after being on TRT for a year, at least nothing detectable. Maybe there's a few swimming around in there, but they couldn't find them. Now, in contrast, and this is important to understand, there's a lot of guys that go on TRT with our clinic, and they want to maintain fertility instead of trying to reestablish it in the future. And we will do a protocol of TRT and HCG, and that does seem to work. So I'm going to bring in another example of a patient here, and you can see this guy is on 200 milligrams. He's a big guy, so 200 milligrams of testosterone a week, and it brought his T levels up to right around 800, and he's on HCG, I believe 2,000 IUs a week. So it's a pretty high dose of HCG, but again, it's because he wanted to maintain fertility. He's actively trying to get his wife pregnant. You can see right here, calculated total modal count of 253 million. High volume, good concentration, good motility, good morphology, and the count is 421 million active sperm in his ejaculate. So very fertile. HCG plus TRT worked for him, does not necessarily work for everybody. So let's say, for instance, me personally, I'm gonna go on HCG, 2,000 IUs a week, and I'm gonna do that for 90 days. If we don't see a measurable improvement in my total count and morphology, basically healthy sperm parameters, me personally, I'm gonna come off TRT. I love TRT, I feel excellent on it, my gym performance is great, mental clarity through the roof, but I'll be honest with you, as cool as TRT is, family is way, way cooler. and that's something that I want to continue to build. So for me personally, I'm going to come off TRT. For other guys, let's say they're on the testosterone plus HCG, what we would do for them, and they definitely don't want to come off TRT, we would do recombinant FSH. So HCG is what's called an LH analog. More or less, it steps in for LH because your body is no longer producing it sufficiently to have high intratesticular testosterone, which is necessary but not always sufficient for sperm production. So for guys that are on HCG and TRT and they're not seeing that increase in sperm count, or rather they have no sperm count, then you'll have to introduce FSH, because the HCG plus FSH, I'm not going to say it works every time, but we've seen it work every time, and that's not to say that everybody's the same, it's just to say our experience. So with that being said, recombinant FSH is extremely expensive. So if I were to advise somebody that's price sensitive, coming off of TRT and just doing an HCG regimen, maybe enclomiphene, we have another video, I'm gonna link it up here and at the end of this video, might be what you do in the interim to keep your testosterone levels high so you don't feel like crap, your libido stays high, and hopefully we can turn on sperm production again. So look guys, none of this is medical advice. This should not be used to treat or diagnose medical conditions. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are interested in working with a qualified medical professional who isn't me, but I hire them, you can go on my website, Steele Health and Hormone Center, centered spell RE.com, fill out a contact form. We will be in touch within 24 hours. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.